town. This was originally 5th Street in Wilmington. Residents of 5th Street get together and they would travel around some. At some point, some of them traveled up into New York City. When they got to New York, they saw that New York had a 5th Avenue. As they had returned to Wilmington, 5th Street wasn't good enough for them anymore. They insisted to the city leaders they change the name to 5th Avenue. They finally talked them into it. Today we do have a 5th Avenue instead of 5th Street here in town. The big fountain that's coming up in the middle of Market Street and 5th Avenue. This is called Keenan Plaza. It was given to the Wilmingtonians by the Keenan family, whose home we had passed earlier. They did not think the people of Wilmington appreciated them very much. A lot of people didn't understand the lifestyle the Keenans lived. They gave us the big fountain here. They would feel more appreciated. They insisted the fountain go one of the busier intersections of the town. It did originally extend out another 8 feet into Market Street. It was cut down to widen the road. Fountain, it's always under construction. It does sit right here in the middle of Market Street. For some reason, people driving up and down Market Street, they don't see the fountain. They try to drive right up into it. Always are laying new cement to Keenan Fountain. Fountain does operate. It's been turned off since Saturday. I don't know what happened to it Saturday. Sometimes it gets, people put soap in it, starts making bubbles all over the downtown area, so they have to shut it off. To clean it up and then get it started back again. I guarantee you it'll be started back in the next couple of days. So, now over here on the far right-hand corner, the big white home sitting over here, this is the Bellamy Mansion. Home was built for Dr. Bellamy, who was a local physician in town. He was also a prominent businessman. He also had owned several plantations around the area. Home over here on the right was the Bellamy's town home. Now, if you look in the backyard, you'll see 2 little brick buildings. The first one's a replica of the carriage house. Second brick building we'll see here in just a second. That was the original slave quarters for the Bellamy home. Now, the home was completed right along the eve of the Civil War, and when Union generals made it to town, they saw this nice new mansion here in town. They kicked the Bellamy family out of it. They turned it into their general headquarters. After the war, the Bellamys did, like every good Southern family, they traveled to Washington, D.C. They pledged their allegiance to the United States. They also paid thousands and thousands of dollars in back taxes. Well, they did this, but it did kind of scar the Bellamys for the rest of their lives. And in 1909, we had our first presidential visit to Wilmington after the Civil War. That was President Taft. The town was outside it. Had flags and bunting everywhere, even had a big parade down 3rd Street, and a lot of the town came out, tried to catch a glimpse of the president. Well, at some point, while the president was being toured around Wilmington, he saw the Bellamy home and noted that he would like to see the inside of that home. Well, they thought that would be no problem. He was the President of the United States. They put him back in his touring car, drove him back to the home, marched up steps, and knocked on the door. At that time, Miss Ellen Bellamy was living in there. She was the youngest daughter of Dr. Bellamy, the only direct descendant still living. While the president knocked on the door, Ellen Bellamy answered the door, saw the president standing there. She slammed the door right in his face. They thought there must be some kind of misunderstanding. The president again knocked. Ellen Bellamy again answered the door. This time he did get to introduce himself as the President of the United States. Said he'd like to take a tour of her big fine home there. Well, she looked the president straight in the eyes and said, "You are no president of mine," and again slammed the door. President Taft there to get to see the Bellamy Mansion. That's mainly because he was a Republican. Ellen Bellamy wouldn't have anything to do with Republicans. It was even noted she would never ride in a Lincoln car because it was named after a Republican president. Now, Ellen Bellamy lived in the Bellamy Mansion until her death. They say she still haunts the home, so you can still see her moving around in there long after a museum has been closed for the evening. She even later in life, on her writing a book, it was Out with the Wind, called Back with the Tide. Now, the building that's coming up over here on the right, the setting up these bleachers are getting set up for the Azalea Festival Parade, which is Saturday morning. This is where all the dignitaries get to sit and watch the parade behind City Hall here. Official North Carolina Azalea Festival officially kicks off Wednesday with the coronation of the Azalea Queen. It goes through Sunday with the parade is on Saturday morning. Anyway, the building back there is our City Hall. It's also Thalian Hall. Hall was designed by John Tribble. He had designed it for combined governmental use as well as art theater here in town. That hall was first completed. It could seat about 1,500 people. That was for a town of just 5,000. It was one of the larger halls in the South when it was first completed. John Tribble had also designed Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. After Lincoln was assassinated at Ford's Theater was closed down for a fear of riots, and John Ford was kicked out of the Washington area. He's not allowed to do any more productions or bookings in the area. Up in Wilmington, he had exclusive rights to Thalian Hall. We saw a lot of big performances in there at one time. Even later than that, 1960s, the National Park Service came in. They took over Ford's Theater in Washington. They got ready to restore it. They could not find any blueprints or plans for Ford's Theater anywhere else in Wilmington. They did a replica. Thalian Hall was one of the few John Tribble designed halls still standing. You go visit Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. today, you're actually seeing nothing more than a replica of Thalian Hall right here in Wilmington. A lot of people think Thalian Hall is much nicer as well. If you did not know, Wilmington is the third largest movie producing area anywhere in the United States. We are number 3, just behind New York and LA. Filmed over 400 productions here in the past 10 years or so. Do have the Screen Gem Studios are located here in town. They're out on 23rd Street. They're kind of across the street from Wilmington Airport. They are doing some filming around town right now, doing very little filming around town. They are filming a TV series here. It's called Good Behavior. It comes on TNT. And we lost a lot of our film incentives when we elected our previous governor. They're now trying to get them back on the table when they've elected a new governor, and hopefully they'll get the filming back into North Carolina. We lost a lot of it to the state of Georgia. Over on the right, all these buildings are all part of our Cape Fear Community College. They have sort of a unique downtown riverfront campus here. Now this whole block here on the right, this is all part of the Cotton Exchange. I have not visited the Cotton Exchange. What it is today, it's all shops and restaurants. So the riches on leaf are all our cotton was handled through this port. We had the Sprunk family come in. These buildings, they invented a steam cotton press. The cotton press could press the cotton into such tight little bales. They shipboard in Charleston, Savannah, and even New Orleans at one time. Our front street that we're heading down here, this is our main retail street to the downtown area, where you'll find most of our shops, restaurants, and bars are located. You'll find Front Street one block up from River, because Water Street was actually on the original layouts of the town, originally all docks and wharfs. You'll also notice a lot of these buildings along Front Street are 2 and 3 stories high. The second and third levels of most of these buildings now have been converted into high-rent apartments as well as high-end condominiums. Matter of fact, the building coming up over here on the corner has the open flag flying down on the front door. The top 2 levels of this building have been converted into what they own. This was an old bank building. Now you look to the right, when I get to this opening coming up from the right, when I tore down this old building here. If you look down and across the river, you'll be able to see the battleship North Carolina sitting over there. Battleship was saved from a scrapyard by residents in North Carolina from school children. right on up into a large corporation and a penny saving campaign. Save your pennies to save our ship. Ended up saving enough pennies to sail about a ship and brought the ship up the river, set her up as a war memorial. They were a little concerned about bringing about a ship up to Wilmington. She did draw the whole depth of the river. Actually had waited for a full moon, high tide, had every tug in the area standing by her made on to her. All that missed the peak of the tide. Ship grounded right here. I'd spend the night on one tide. Right on the right, you see this Port City Java Coffee House. That's our locally franchised coffee house. You can actually find 4 Port City Javas in 5 blocks of Front Street here. But you won't find a Starbucks anywhere downtown. They're actually all over the southeastern United States. That's where they got their openers in that storefront we just passed. They're mostly in coastal areas, although someone said they do have them in Charlotte and Raleigh and Atlanta as well. Over here on the right, this is the last block of Market Street. This is where our original city market was located. It's also where you come down and catch our original ferry in and out of Wilmington. Our original ferry was propelled by an oarsman. They later added a gasoline power launch the ferry. That was the only way back and forth across the river until the twin bridges were completed north of the town. It's not until 1929. You could drive into Wilmington from the south. I still do have a little river taxi operates right now. It goes back and forth from downtown Wilmington to the battleship North Carolina. It goes about every half hour right there from the foot of Market Street. Now you look over to the left, all these buildings on the left-hand side, these are all new buildings. They're just made to look old and fit in with the historical look. The only original building along this block is the one that's sandwiched in the middle of all of them that houses the Dock Street Oyster Bar. The next building beside the Oyster Bar that has the 2 big garage doors on the bottom levels, this is actually someone's private home here. They built it back in 2006. That's going to pretty much bring us back to our little trolley stop. Hope you have enjoyed your trolley tour. Hope that you will enjoy the rest of your day here in Wilmington. You please remain seated till we get the trolley back into our little, or back against the curb here and get the doors open. You'll know that it is safe to disembark. And thank you.